All right. Hey, y'all. So I am here with the Flex Queen. Okay. And tonight this is going to be a very interesting topic. We see recently how, and yes, I'm gonna jump right into it, y'all. And I'm gonna let you introduce yourself in just a second here. But hello to everybody that's already waiting and everybody that's coming into the room. Let me make sure I have everything set up and I can make sure that we are set to go. But hey, y'all. So we've been seeing everything that's been happening with in the media, particularly now, Black Lives Matter kind of transitioning. That's a funny word, sorry. Transitioning into Black trans lives matter too. And we see kind of some of the social media conversation that this is stirring. And I thought this was very interesting. And one thing about me, and my subscribers know I've been saying I'm going to do these interviews recently. I want to bring people on because one thing about me, I never want to be in an echo chamber. The media tends to control these narratives, these stories. Like for me, when I started my channel, it was like, oh, all Black women feel like this. And I'm sitting at home like, no, I don't. So I'll just speak for myself. So I have you on tonight. And we're gonna discuss one thing about me. That's okay. We're gonna discuss some issues as they relate to the trans community. However, I do realize trans people are not a monolith, okay? Just like Black people are not, or LGBT people, or any other group of people for that matter. But I did want to just ask you some questions tonight. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you introduce yourself to everybody in the room.
Oh, hello everybody. So I go by the Flex Queen. I'm from Texas, and I'm a subscriber of RhondaMary, and I love her content. I don't know what else to say to describe myself to you. You just wanted me to introduce who I was, right? Okay, yeah. So that's it. That's who I am.
Okay. All right. And so we're gonna go ahead and just jump right into it. So let's start with the fact that recently one of the Black Lives Matter activists came out and basically was like, Black Lives Matter is a trans movement. It started as a trans movement. I don't want to misquote it, but we're going to watch the clip here, and then I want to know your thoughts, and we're going to ask you some questions. All right, so this was on MSNBC.
All three of them started Black Lives Matter with the intention of Black trans women being at the center of this work. As the movement has grown and as time has passed, we've perhaps moved away from that in some ways, but I think that in general we have to understand that this moment that we are experiencing requires and necessitates the presence, uplifting, and empowerment of Black trans people. And I think that the moment that we find ourselves in is one that I hope has longevity and continues to move forward.
Okay. So, the Flex Queen, you heard that. This was, I would say, news to me. I've heard people say, oh, Black Lives Matter is just running cover for LGBT. I know they were also kind of talking about some of these issues, but this is the first time I've heard it said in this way. What are your thoughts about this? Were you under this impression as well when Black Lives Matter began?
One more time, Rhonda. Repeat it a little bit.
Were you under the same impression when Black Lives Matter began? How one of the leaders here is saying, oh, Black Lives Matter was always a trans movement. It was really always a trans movement. We just kind of moved away from that.
No, I had no idea. you know, just recently, you guys, I recently have found out. Well, I've always kind of had the idea, but I recently have found out that there's a total difference between Black Lives Matter, the movement, and the organization. Um, so I'm in total support with the movement of Black Lives Matter because I do believe Black Lives Matter. Every life matters, you know. But when it comes to the organization, um, I'm just really careful. I have nieces and so many, you know, little kids in my family and stuff like that, and I'm real particular with what they view. I'm really comfortable with letting a kid just be a kid because and it's not in anyone who's trans or gay who's watching. It's not me. It's not me taking any jabs or anything at the LGBT community because, of course, I'm part of it. But at the same time, I don't feel like sex of any type should be involved with children. And I think the LGBT community, a lot of times, um, whether you want to take it there or not, it kind of comes back to it about being about sex. If that kind of makes sense, does that make sense to you?
So
And
when
and to adults, no, but explaining it to a child, you know what I'm saying? Explaining it to a child, how do you convey that to them? Like, there's just no way, you know. So I just would prefer not to bring it up at all.
you would prefer not to bring up the trans issues as like not relating it to Black Lives Matter or the movement.
Yeah, the movement, Black Lives Matter, the movement. That's fine. I don't think we need to tie trans lives, or you know, to that. That's a whole nother subject matter, in my opinion. Trans lives do matter. It's just it's a different movement. There's a lot of trans people that I'm starting to hear that are coming out saying, well, and I'm gonna say this for my community really quick, that when we go and march for black men, there are trans women there too, but there are transgender women who are murdered, you know, and no one really stands with us in the sense, you know, it's like that life just kind of sinks, and that's a Black life too, and nobody really talks about it. And the way I see it is we have to come together, you guys. Like, we really have to, whether you agree, because I tell people all the time, you do not have to like me or talk to me. If you don't like trans people, then we don't have to be friends. But when it comes to Black lives, I'm Black, you're Black, we need to stand together if we want this type of justice. Now, for the trans community, I'm going to slap ourselves on the wrist. We do not have to constantly make the movement about something else. The subject matter was Black people being murdered by police, and the statistics show that it's normally a Black man. So, did I answer that for you properly?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good.
I followed that. So it seems like you're, you know, basically saying this, and that was going into my next question, because I was going to say, well, what do you feel like? How do you feel about it being split off and saying, okay, you know, we have this Black Lives Matter movement, and then we have this Black Lives I don't even think I'm saying it right. Black trans lives matter too, and it's kind of splitting off. And yeah, I think you absolutely answered that. And I like that you brought up the fact of how statistically, when we're looking at it, if you're just going to look at the numbers, overwhelmingly, how this organization, it represents who the police brutality was about, if that makes sense, right? So, like, you'll have people like Breonna Taylor in that situation, but those situations don't happen as often as it would with an unarmed Black man. So I totally understand where you're coming from. Let's go ahead and look at this Billy Porter video. Okay, he is quite the character. Some people, you know, I'm not like a big TV person. I can't really just keep up with it. So I kind of like know of him and seeing his face, but I don't know a super lot about him. But this particular video made him go viral, and it kind of goes into some of the things we were just talking about. So let's check out this video for the people that have not saw this.
And Black people hear me. But you're gonna like this one. As a Black queer man in America, my basic human rights have been up for legislation every single day that I have had breath in my body from all sides. And by that, I mean that the Black community's relationship with the LGBTQ plus community is appalling at best and eerily similar to that of white supremacists versus Black folk. Hear me, Black people, and hear me well. I'm calling y'all out right here and right now. You cannot expect our demands of equality to be met with any real legislative policy and change when y'all turn around and inflict the same kind of hate and oppression on us. The tragic reality here is that Black, trans, as well as gender non-conforming women and men are being killed in the United States by cis Black men to such a degree that it is nearly the worst emergency for trans women on the planet. The murder of trans Black men since 2016 have helped drive violent period for LGBTQ plus people on record. Just this past week.
Okay. So, you heard that, right?
Yeah.
So you are living this experience. I can only hear what Billy Porter is saying. We are already in a very polarizing time. Tensions are high. It's just a lot going on. We're being bombarded with a lot of different messages by the media. What are your thoughts on this video? And then I kind of want to know from your experience, do you feel like what you experienced, particularly from the Black community, would you say that is akin to white supremacy?
Let me just start with the statement about is it akin to white supremacy. I don't think so, you know, and again, I just want to say that this is my own experience. This is me speaking for me. I can't speak for every other trans person. Right. I do feel that in the Black community, trans people, well, the LGBT community in general has the Black community has been very accepting lately. Now, you can't expect everyone, but I mean, they've given platforms to trans people. You see them a lot more than you would have years ago. So what do you think? I mean, I think that in my opinion, I would think that Black community is coming around and that they're starting to, you know, I don't know about accept, but definitely some of them are starting to tolerate, I guess. I don't know if that's the term. My family, I come from a really Christian family, and it took a while for my family to kind of even just talk to me like normal for a long time, you know, especially my dad and my grandma. You know, these are people, you know, and I think that's what makes me understand it, because Black men, you know, my father, I think that could be one of the toughest things for your son, you know, for a Black man to realize that your son is trans or even just gay, you know. So that's such a difficult topic, Rhonda. I don't know, you know, but all I can say is I've met many Black people, even the ones who are not my family, like the ones who don't love me just because they're supposed to, have supported me and loved me just the way I am. You know, I don't force my life on anyone. Like I said, you don't have to talk to me, and I'm not so out there. I'm not so flamboyant. I think that's another thing. What it is, I think a lot of Black gay men, you know, they sometimes fit the stereotype. They come around being so much, and and it's a lot for a lot of people to handle. Just get your behind somewhere and sit down and act like a regular person, and I think that you'll be good. So yeah, Black people.
And that kind of leads me into my next thing, right? Because most people, right? I think most people, majority of people, ultimately, and this is just my opinion, I could be wrong, okay? But I think generally people don't like I'm not trying to stop you. You're an adult, right? I cannot stop you from doing anything you want to do in your adult life. I think what happens is that you have gay marriage, and correct me if I'm wrong, that was just made legal in all 50 states in like 2015. Is that right? Was it 2012 or 2015?
You know, I don't keep up with the gay marriage thing.
Okay, I understand. But anyway, right? Somewhere in between there, right? The narrative literally went from, oh, date, marry, love who you want. That's what this is all about. To now in 2020, you have drag queen story hour. You have drag queens twerking on children, and you have children drag queens dancing for money. You have people on Twitter, literally Black women saying, if you don't date a trans person, you're as a Black man, if you don't date a trans person, you're transphobic. To me, if I was you, and I can't speak for you, but to me that's offensive, because it's like you're trying to push people on me to date me. Don't do that. I don't need you to coerce people into dating me. I don't so a lot of it, that particular thing that I just said, not only seems backward and offensive, but you have this huge leap of a narrative, and some people are just like, wait, we went from 0 to 100. And I think a lot of people are still trying to conceptualize this whole thing. You have a media that's running off with a narrative. And this is why I wanted you to come on and talk. And, we haven't talked to this extent. These are my first time hearing your real opinions. But unlike the media, we get this one little narrative and they run with it. And we don't hear any other voices or nuance or perspective or balance or anything like that. How do you feel about the representation of both trans people and LGBT people in the media?
Well, as we know, with the media, they kind of do what they want, and they don't represent me, that, like I said, most of the majority of the time I'm speaking for myself, and if I'm speaking for somebody else, it's because I've been around friends or family who felt the same way. So then at that point I can speak for someone else. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm scared to say how I feel about that subject, about how we're being represented. I do think there are some good representation of trans women. Everyone is not sexualizing children, or being so sexual when it comes to the trans community. There are other trans women. There's people like Janet Mock. I don't know if you guys have heard of her. There's Laverne. There's so many other trans women that you can look up, and you can dig up their backgrounds, and you don't find that whole being so sexual, or perversion, or whatever the case may be that most of the time that people say. So just look for that. I guess the media is just, I don't know.
So let me ask you this. I have to ask. I don't know if you're gonna want to answer this, but do you think what we seeing in the media, do you think it is organic, or do you think it's manufactured? Because you have
what do you mean by it?
The narrative, the huge push of just
accepting.
No, not that. I think that it was something I was about to say. I just lost my thought. Sorry. Okay, I got it. You have some people that say, particularly on social media, that there is an agenda being pushed, right?
Mm-hmm.
As someone like you that's kind of like more chill, kind of just doing your own thing, you don't necessarily feel like the media represents you. Do you think what we've seen? So earlier I mentioned this big shift from the time gay marriage was legalized in all 50 states to now. Do you think this is kind of happened organically, or do you think that there is
Are you
possibly—
saying like, are you saying that every few years they're pushing the envelope? Because that's what I'm kind of getting at. Are you saying that first? Because it sounds like you're saying first they started with the gay marriage, and now we're being forced to accept it. Like, is that what you're kind of leaning?
No, I don't think that's what I'm trying to say. I think what I'm asking is that, okay, for example, this is a perfect example, right?
Mhm.
You have Black Lives Matter. You
Yeah.
have people actively protesting Black Lives Matter. And then somebody just decides, oh no, we're gonna make this Black Lives Matter, Black Trans Lives Matter too. Do you think that those shifts are organic? Like people on the ground are doing this? Or do you think it's possibly people are—
I think that it's valid to speak about trans lives, but I think that since the focus is on Black Lives Matters, because since the focus is on Black men who are being brutally murdered by police, I think we should focus on that, and then fix that. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't focus on trans life again. And I want to stress how I think every single life matters. Every single life matters. It doesn't matter who you are, you know. So I mean, like you, I don't know, the timing of it, the timing of bringing up, oh, trans lives matter too, and you know, I feel like that itself causes even more division. You know, that's going to cause even more division. And here we are trying to, you know, get justice for Black men and Black, you know, Black people in general, because there's also Black women who are you know, attacked by police. I'm sure you've seen in the media.
Mhm.
So, you know, I think we need to just focus on that. As for, you know, Black trans lives matter, yes, it does matter, but like I said, we need to focus on what we need to focus on right now. And right now, Black men are being senselessly murdered at an alarming rate, you know, and I think that we need to just focus on that, you know, and that's just that. Now, Black trans lives do matter, and we will. That'll be something that I think that people definitely need to look into if you can. Now, a lot of people will you know, just say that they. I think the issue is that that a lot of I've had a conversation with another friend who's a part of the LGBT community. It's like they kind of feel like, well, at what point do we matter? At what point is someone going to say that, you know, this person is also African American? Did they not deserve to live? You know, so that is valid. I think that Black people need to also take that into account, that these lives matter too. But at the same time, I think that the LGBT community needs to take into account that, like we said, statistically, there are Black men being harmed, you know, murdered senselessly by police. And
Let me
so,
let me shout out these super chats real quick. So thank you, Zen Master Me. Thank you for the super chat. Timothy said, I appreciate you not being deceived towards this gender divide among Black people. White supremacy's greatest tool is to divide and conquer. Continue to speak truth, my sister. Thank you, Timothy, for the super chat. So let me ask you, let's talk about cancel culture a little bit. There are certain groups of people that you cannot just say anything about, whether that is a joke, whether it's people pulling up your tweet from 20 years ago. And oftentimes LGBT people are lumped in, or kind of presented as the people pushing cancel culture. Now, I can't say for sure that's the demographic of people doing it, but a lot of times that's what we see how the media is spinning it, right? I think of people like Kevin Hart and Boosie and so many other people. But just tell me a little bit in general, like, what is your views on cancel culture?
I think me and you had discussed this before. You know, it can be really scary. I guess because you gotta be real careful about what you say and how you say it. But cancel culture is definitely real. I don't know what to tell you about my opinion other than, like I told you, I think it's a real thing. There's definitely, in my opinion, it's just a real thing, and that's just that.
So let me ask you this. I'm trying to get you to be more specific here, okay? Tell me if you want to address this. So earlier when we were talking about during this interview, you mentioned something about kind of like getting cold feet because maybe certain people having a privilege that you don't have. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Say it again.
Earlier when we were talking today about setting up the interview, and you mentioned something about getting a little bit of cold feet because you said you feel like certain people have privilege to maybe say things that you can't say. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah, I do.
Would you be able to expand on that a little bit? Because you didn't even go into it with me what you were talking about, and I would be interested to know that.
I think that there's people, that are definitely in a place where maybe I don't know if it's their following or or what the case may be, but there are people in the place. I do feel like if you have certain opinions about, if you don't agree with their ideology, then it's like you get shunned or something. I don't know what it is, you know and not just people. And I don't need. Sometimes it's not even just a person. There could be a viral topic that is happening, or a story that breaks, and you may question it, or and out of nowhere people just come and just attack you. So
have you ever experienced that, or is it kind of like I keep my thoughts to myself because I see other people going through that?
Both. I've experienced it, and when I experienced it, I decided to keep some thoughts to myself. I never said what I'm talking about, but yeah, there are some things that if I share my opinion about it, people definitely, you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
So is it fair to say that, and it sounds like you're maybe like moving something around a little bit. Is it?
No, I'm hearing a lot of staticking too. I don't know if I hear it every time you talk, not when I talk. So I don't.
Oh, okay. Okay. So let me ask you this last thing. Is it fair to say, based on what you just told me, that as a trans person, you feel like if your opinion doesn't match the mainstream narrative or social media thing, that you'll be canceled or you couldn't speak out? Is that what I'm understanding?
It could be that. It doesn't necessarily have to be. It could be a group of people. I mean, I guess you could say, man, it could be just a group of people. I have myself been around a group of people who's talking about a subject, and if I truly believe something different than what that group is saying, then you know, I noticed that things kind of change with the way they kind of treat me or talk to me or something like that, and I'm like, okay. And then it started to happen often. I don't want to just go ahead and say it's just the mainstream media. It definitely, it can be sometimes too, because there's some stories that, for example, let me give you guys an example. I personally questioned. I'm sure you guys seen it if you follow music or not, but I thought it was real strange how Nicki Minaj was just canceled because I'm such a huge fan. Well, when I went and said, well, you know, I think blase, I was like, you know, attacked where it's like, what is this? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is this? So, and then it's not a regular kind of hate. It's not a regular kind of pain. I mean, these people will just her, you know. So it's like, are you a real person, or are you like, what? You know what I'm saying? You don't even know me. You don't know me to even be that angry at me like that.
Right.
And at that point, I begin to think that is cancel culture. When it's like someone who's gonna bully you into thinking, and if you feel different about it, they're gonna attack you and make you feel scared. And then at this point, you don't want to talk about it anymore. So I don't know. But that's just an example. It's not just about, you know, music or Nicki Minaj. That's just an example I'm telling you guys, because there's many different stories where I have disagree with certain things. It could be in politics, it can be within music, it can be in a lot of different things. In the minute that I say something that someone else didn't agree with, and it's not that I'm saying it because they disagree, it's because I'm telling you how I genuinely feel. If you ask my opinion, I'm telling it to you. And then if you're upset by it, then I get attacked for it. And I think that's
so true. You don't so the cancel culture isn't necessarily tied to being trans. Like, you haven't had a lot of people bullying you necessarily because you're trans. It's more so just in general. Like, it's just the culture.
Yeah, cancel culture is just in general. I wouldn't tie cancel culture to just, you know, being trans. No.
I'm saying in your own experience, it doesn't necessarily have to be you speaking out about like a trans issue. It could just, you're basically saying it could be in general. Like, I can be talking about music.
Yeah, that's absolutely what I'm saying. It can be in general. It can be any topic. It could be any topic that you know what it is.
Yes, I know it is. Well, that was pretty much all the questions that I have for tonight. As far as cancel culture, and this is one reason why, and I kind of talked about this a little bit going into the beginning of the show, I don't want to create this echo chamber for myself, right? I was looking for, like, I can have my own opinion about stuff, but that's not a reflection of you. And I can have a conversation with anybody. As long as you, like, chill, I can talk about anything. I'm easy to talk to. I'm easygoing. But I feel like we've created this culture where if you don't line up with the mainstream narrative, if you don't line up with the mob, if I don't appear like she looks like her opinion takes this box, you know, then people have a problem with that. And I think it's so unfortunate. I have so many people hitting me in my inbox that look like me, that look like you, that look like people that look nothing like me. And they say, you know, thank you. You say things that I'm scared to say. You say things that I can't say. And I'm like, you can say them. You just don't, you know? And so we're fighting this whole, like, culture of you can't say that, you don't do that in a mob. And it's very tiring. Not only is it tiring, but it's just very it can be very defeating for a lot of people. So I really appreciate you for coming on tonight and sharing some of your views. I can tell you were still a little bit like reserved in some of your things, but that's okay.
I'm so sorry to everyone. I was really shy, so I feel like I was probably rambling. This is my first time going live, you know, so I really apologize. But I mean, I said what I feel, you know.
No, and that's been my biggest thing. Like, going into my interviews, I'm starting to interview people now, and I have this thing about I just want to interview like regular, every day, and I don't mean that in a offensive way, but I just mean like everyday people, because you know, these are the things and the stories and the opinions that we don't hear. And we always had this media push of certain voices. I don't like that. And I'm just trying to add some nuance and balance and other conversations. But is there anything else that you want to say, you want to add? Do you want to plug yourself, your social media, anything like that?
No, you guys can follow me. That's my Instagram name, The Flex Queen. I'm on Twitter at The Flex Queen 1. I'll be starting a podcast soon talking about different topics, more specifically, you know, just different stuff that I think you guys would probably like to hear. I have a YouTube channel that'll be dropping. It's more so catered to my weight loss journey because I'm definitely on a weight loss journey. So you guys tune in for that, and that's pretty much it. But thank you for having me. I'm such a huge fan. And entertainers are really not leaders.
Y'all heard it here first from the Flex Queen. You heard that. But all right, y'all. Thank y'all for everybody that watched and supporting. Thank y'all for everybody that's super supported. Thank you again to the Flex Queen for coming on and being willing to talk to me. And all right, y'all have a good night. We're out. Bye.